The more you let go, the more comes back to you. This sounds impossible, almost like a trick of language or a riddle meant to confuse. We are told our entire lives that success, safety, and identity all come from holding on tightly. Hold on to your goals. Hold on to your possessions. Hold on to your beliefs about who you are. Letting go, we think, is the same as losing. But nature whispers a different story, one that has been playing out for millions of years before we ever tried to control it. Stand by the ocean for a moment and watch the waves. They rise, they crash, they retreat. No single way clings to the shore. It is the coming and going itself that creates the beauty of the sea. Imagine if the tide tried to hold still, to lock itself in place so it would never lose a drop of water. The ocean would cease to be alive. Its vitality depends on the very movement that looks like loss. Or picture autumn. The leaves do not fight the wind, though clinging would keep them safe on the branch a little longer. Instead, they surrender. And in that surrender, they fulfill their purpose, returning to the earth, nourishing the soil, making room for spring. The tree itself does not grieve their departure, for it knows the cycle is not an enemy, but its greatest ally. Now think about the grip we keep on ourselves. The ego, this tightly woven story of who we are, is something we guard with ferocity. We defend it in arguments, polish it in social media posts, reinforce it with every choice we make. We cling to the idea of being someone. Yet the paradox is this: the tighter we hold on to this story, the less alive we feel. Anxiety creeps in, fear of being wrong, of being forgotten, of being exposed as less than what we claimed. And the more we clutch this fragile mask, the more it cracks under the pressure. So here is the riddle worth sitting with. What happens when we stop gripping so tightly? When we stop insisting that our story must remain unchanged, must remain defended at all costs? Could it be that letting go of the ego, this fictional script we recite to ourselves, doesn't leave us with nothing, but with everything? Could it be that, like the river, like the leaves, like the tide, life flows more fully when we release our grip? The paradox is not here to confuse you. It's here to invite you. The truth is simple, but unsettling. You are not the story you tell about yourself. And the moment you loosen your hold, life rushes in to remind you who you truly are. A farmer once asked his helper to do a simple task: sort a large basket of potatoes into 3 piles, small, medium, and large. It sounded easy enough, no heavy lifting, no hard labor, just sit and separate. But by the end of the day, the helper quit. Not because his back hurt, not because the work was too much. He quit from exhaustion, the exhaustion of endless, tiny decisions. Every potato demanded an answer: small or medium, medium or large. The constant effort to judge, to categorize, to define, wore him down far faster than digging or plowing ever could. In many ways, this is how we treat our lives. Every moment, every encounter, every thought must be sorted into piles. Am I good enough or not? Was that success or failure? Do they love me or don't they? We become potato sorters of the soul, drained not by life itself, but by the endless sorting of our egos. Think about a time when you rehearsed a conversation before it even happened. You played both parts in your head, carefully crafting your lines, defending your position, imagining every possible reaction. By the time the actual conversation arrived, you were already tired, sometimes even resentful. And more often than not, reality refused to follow your script. The other person surprised you, or the moment dissolved into laughter, or the tension you prepared for never even appeared. All that clinging to control left you drained for nothing. Or consider the social mask we wear at a gathering. We try to be funny enough, interesting enough, impressive enough. Every sentence becomes another potato to sort. Was that clever? Did they like it? Did I say too much? By the end of the night, the exhaustion isn't from the party itself, but from the ego's constant whispering, demanding that we manage and measure every move. The tragedy is that we mistake this effort for living. We think the exhaustion is the price of belonging, when in truth, it is the weight of the story we refuse to put down. Life, like the farmer's field, doesn't require us to sort everything. It requires us to plant, to trust the seasons, to let the sun and the rain do their part. The helper quit because he saw the futility in trying to categorize every potato. And perhaps, if we're honest, we've all felt that same futility when it comes to managing the endless details of who we think we must be. The ego whispers, sort, control, define. But the heart quietly reminds us, live. The story of the farmer's helper reveals something we rarely admit. Most of our exhaustion in life doesn't come from heavy labor, but from the endless strain of trying to control what cannot be controlled. It is not the lifting and carrying of life that wears us down, but the constant sorting, labeling, and defending of the self. The ego is like that basket of potatoes, demanding judgment after judgment, decision after decision, until our spirit is tired long before the day is done. We live as if survival depends on managing every detail. We rehearse conversations, cling to identities, replay mistakes, and craft strategies for futures that never arrive the way we expect. And yet nature, which has carried on effortlessly for billions of years, shows us another way. The river does not consult a map, yet it reaches the sea. The flower does not calculate the timing of the bees, yet pollination happens. The forest does not appoint a leader, yet every creature finds its role in the grand design. Alan Watts once put it simply, nature itself pries your fingers open and shows you the illusion of control. We grip so tightly to our ideas of who we are, of how things should be, of what must happen next, but eventually life itself unclenches our hands. A job ends. A relationship changes. The body grows older. These are not punishments. They are reminders. Reminders that control was never the point. Flow was. Think about it. When have you felt most alive? Was it when you were clutching every outcome, planning every word, managing every variable? Or was it when you were swept into laughter with friends, when you lost yourself in music, when you stood before a sunset and forgot, for a moment, to think about yourself at all? Those are the moments when the ego's story loosens its grip, and life itself is free to come rushing in. The lesson is not that we must abandon effort or discipline, but that we must stop confusing effort with control. A gardener still plants seeds, but she does not tug at the sprouts to make them grow faster. She tends the soil. She waters. She trusts the sunlight. The rest is not hers to command. In the same way, we can act, create, love, and strive, but without the heavy cloak of control. The irony is that the ego, in its desperate attempt to keep us safe, is the very thing that keeps us tired, anxious, and restless. And the moment we see through its game, the illusion collapses. We realize that the story of me is just that, a story. And stories, unlike chains, can be set down any time. Life always seems to offer us two paths, though we often don't notice the fork in the road until we've already chosen. One path is the way of control. The other is the way of trust. The path of control is familiar. It's the path of the ego. On this road, every step must be measured. Every outcome must be secured. Every person must be persuaded to see things our way. It looks like power, but it feels like anxiety. We build walls to protect ourselves, only to find we are imprisoned within them. We carry the crown of being right, but it grows heavier with each argument we win and each friend we lose. Like a monarchy ruled by a single, nervous king, the ego demands obedience, not cooperation. And the subjects of this inner kingdom, our body, our relationships, our peace of mind, quietly wither under its rule. The other path is trust, not blind passivity, but an active alignment with life's rhythm. On this road, we step into cooperation rather than domination. Imagine a forest. No single tree commands the others. No single bird dictates the morning chorus. No stream demands that the stones move aside. And yet, everything thrives. Shared sunlight, shared rain, shared soil. Life flourishes not by one thing controlling another, but by all things moving together. This is the wisdom the ego resists, but the heart already knows. When we trust, we discover something astonishing. Help arrives in unexpected ways. A stranger smiles at us when we most needed kindness. An opportunity appears when we had nearly given up. A friend calls just as loneliness was about to take root. These are not accidents. They are reminders that life is not a solo performance, but a symphony. And a symphony doesn't need a dictator. It needs musicians who listen to each other. So here is the contrast in its simplest form. Control leads to anxiety, burnout, and isolation. Trust leads to cooperation, surprise, and alignment with something larger than ourselves. And perhaps the most important lesson is this: shared power nourishes all things without dominating anything. Just as the forest thrives without a king, our lives thrive when we stop demanding that everything bend to our will. The ego insists, "I must rule," but the heart whispers, "I belong." Which path will you take? There's a moment, once control has loosened its grip, where something unsettling appears: uncertainty. The ego panics at this because uncertainty feels like weakness, like danger. But what if uncertainty is not the end of wisdom, but the beginning of it? Consider this. A light cannot shine on itself. A blade cannot cut itself. The eye cannot see itself directly. In the same way, the self cannot fully grasp itself, not by thinking, not by controlling. The harder we try to pin down who we are, the more elusive we become. And maybe that's the point. The ego thrives on certainty. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is how things must go. But life itself refuses to be boxed in. The river bends, the clouds scatter, the seasons shift. Why should our lives be any different? The mystery isn't a mistake in the design. It is the design. What if "I don't know" is not a confession of failure, but a doorway to freedom? When you say, "I don't know," suddenly the weight of defending an image drops away. You become open, curious, available. Think of the last time someone surprised you in a wonderful way. A joke that made you laugh harder than expected. A gesture of kindness that came out of nowhere. These moments only land because you didn't script them in advance. You didn't know. And that not knowing was the space in which life could surprise you. Alan Watts often pointed out that what we truly want is inseparable from what others want. What I really want is tied to what you want. And what you want? I don't know. Surprise me. This isn't resignation. It's trust in the dance of existence. When we let go of the need to choreograph every step, we find ourselves moving in harmony with rhythms far larger than our own plans. Mystery is not the enemy of meaning. Mystery is the soil from which meaning grows. The tree does not know in advance the exact pattern of its branches, yet look at its elegance. The child does not plan every laugh, yet joy bursts forth naturally. Perhaps the wisest stance is not, "I have it figured out," but "I am willing to be surprised." And in that openness, the ego's story begins to dissolve. We realize that what we thought we needed to defend was never the source of life. The real source is the mystery itself, vast, unpredictable, and endlessly generous to those who dare to trust it. We began with a paradox. The more you let go, the more comes back to you. At first, it sounded impossible, like a trick of words. But now, after walking through the stories, the metaphors, and the quiet lessons of nature, it no longer feels strange. It feels obvious. Life was never asking us to grip harder. It was asking us to loosen our hands. Decay and impermanence, which once seemed like enemies, reveal themselves as allies. The falling leaf does not signal the end of the tree, but the renewal of the soil. The river's constant surrender to gravity does not rob it of freedom, but ensures its journey to the sea. Even our own losses, the jobs, the identities, the chapters of life we once clung to, clear the way for something we could not have imagined had we held on too tightly. The ego, that fragile story we protect and polish, will always whisper, "Hold on. Don't let go. Without me, you are nothing." But we now see the illusion. The ego is not the substance of life, but the shadow it casts. When we open our hands, when we step into the unknown, we do not lose ourselves. We rediscover ourselves, freer and lighter than before. Think of the moments when life surprised you with joy you could not have planned, a friendship that bloomed by chance, a twist of fate that opened a new path, a moment of beauty that stole your breath. None of these arrived because you demanded them. They arrived because, in some way, you were open enough to receive them. So here is the invitation. Simple, but profound. Stop gripping the story. Let the mask slip. Trust that life is wiser than the ego's plans. You don't need to know the script to play your part beautifully. Stand by the river once more. Watch the water shimmer as it flows, not forcing, not grasping, not fearing what lies ahead. This is what it means to live without the weight of the ego. This is what it means to trust. And so, as you listen now, remember, you are not the story. You are the space in which stories rise and fall. You are the tide itself, not the wave that comes and goes. So let the river carry you. Trust the tide. What is yours will arrive in its own season, and you will be ready because you have learned how to open your hands.